Welcome, friends, to the Bride of Christ and Hebrew Nation Radio Online. You've been with us from time to time, and we're going to start something different today. I've been asked by my university where I graduated over 60 years ago. They're doing a special alumni thing, and they're giving us 10 minutes to talk, and they're wanting to make the experience from campus way back whenever we were there as sort of a promotional, I guess. And I'm wanting to share insights from my life initially that fit with also the mission of Hebrew Nation and the bridegroom comes. And so Heavenly Father, ask your blessing on this discussion. We ask for your spirit, and please help us to live well for you in Yeshua's name. Hallelujah. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy goal, and that's what young people are thinking about, at least success. They want to be a success in life, but many do not know how to get there, and I'm saying if we have a worthy goal and we spend a little time each day thinking about it, we can get there. But we may be defining a worthy goal differently. The worthy goal for some people might be money. And we should try to think that a motive is important in life, and it shouldn't be money, because money can be quickly taken from us. We cannot help what the economy is doing, and at least probably not. But if we plan well, it doesn't matter, because that's not the big part of our goal. If we are yanked around by greener grass here and there because we want more money and there's a bigger job, it won't be a good life really in the long run. But if service to God is our goal, I have found that my life has taken a zigzag course, but I wasn't yanked around. It was how could I be of more service? And that is always a satisfactory type of situation. And God helps us in the deciding of it if we do our best in the work that lies nearest, and we commit our ways to God. He will provide opportunities that come our way. Do it patiently. Be patient. It doesn't have. We don't get from 0 to 70 so quick. But I would say that's been a feature in my life that I look back on, and I'm glad that I have done things I think well for the most part. I can recall in college looking for a spouse. Also, for young women, the goal in life might be a happy home. And on that topic, the pastor that I had while in college, he shared with my future wife-to-be and me a insightful story that I'll share briefly, because he said that he had been asked by a couple to marry them, but the parents did not want them to marry the parents of the girl. Mother said, she is not right for my daughter. What can you do? Help us. He met with them, and he told them that he would be willing to marry them if they would spend a week getting better acquainted, and he wanted them to talk each evening about anything they wanted to talk as long as they wanted to talk, but no hugging or kissing. They agreed, and she called in about 3 days to say, he is the biggest bore I have ever met in my life. The wedding was off, but obviously she was surprised. Affection we all like, and it feels good to we think we're in love, but really that part of it can disappear within 6 months of getting married, and there's not much left if we didn't have a lot of things in common before. So I just say that's an example of how we can miss it when we're young. We like a shiny car and the bumpers and the chrome, but it's the engine that counts, and that can get you from where you want to be today to where you want to be in the future. So I would just say, do your best in the work that lies nearest, commit your ways to God, watch for His leading, and He can help you, whether it's a spouse or an occupation in life. And my life has taken some zigzags, but I find that I believe, serving God now with a better understanding of His future than in fact, I actually predicted the war with Iraq before 9/11, because I had been to a prophecy conference and understood the idea that what Christ was saying in Matthew 24, verse 15, understand the book of Daniel. In Daniel's 8th chapter, there's a vision at the time of the end, and that vision is of a ram and goat conflict, actually. And the horns on the ram are said to be the kings of Media and Persia, but that's Iraq and Iran now. And so I wrote a book and had it in print before we went to war with Iraq, that it was coming. And I want to share, because that vision is not just about Iraq, it's about Iran. And this week, this past week, Iran has been in the news. They thought Iran might attack Israel on Monday, and here we are on Tuesday, still here. Well, I'm seeing, first of all, God says he won't do anything without revealing it in Amos 3:7, but the next verse tells what he wants to reveal. It's the lion's roar. Okay, well, what's that? The lion's roar. Well, Christ, Yeshua, is the Lion of Judah. And when is he going to roar? I think it's Christ again clued us in Luke 21:20. It's about when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies. He says you'll know its desolation is nigh. Well, I thought it would happen this spring, but it didn't. And I'm confident that what happened with Hamas is building with Hezbollah and Iran as well. And Turkey has gotten into the picture with the president of Turkey. It says all nations in Zechariah 14 will be gathered against Jerusalem. Houses rifled, women raped, half the city goes into captivity. Actually, the October 7 was a mini event of what is going to be maxi, I think, next spring at Passover time, which is a time of judgment for Jews. It's God's appointed times in Leviticus 23. And I believe we will see this. And when Muslims take the city of Jerusalem, I believe they're going to celebrate their mosque and the Quran, which says Allah has no son. And I believe that suddenly, when they celebrate that Allah has no son, the Son, who is the Lion of Judah in Revelation 5:5, will roar. It says the Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth will shake, and they will flee. Verse 5 of Zechariah 14. But the point is that earthquake, heavens and earth shaking is going to be huge, and it's day of the Lord, as it says in Zechariah 14, verse 1. I like what others on Hebrew Nation Radio have said about the rule of first use, that the first place we find a word or phrase sometimes has an information, a context, insight that fits the end time, because Christ is Alpha, Omega, first and last. He is the Word. He's consistent with that. And so there is meaning for both times from the first. And I believe that we will see this happen for us with Jerusalem being taken. And the earthquake that's coming will, if I go to where it's first found in the Bible, think of the day of the Lord, first found in Isaiah 2:12. Think of boiling point, 2:12. Things are going to boil and happen. Water changes to steam at that point. But it also says, if you flip 12 around to 21, verse 21, that God will shake terribly the earth. And I say that's the biggest earthquake that's ever happened, probably, that he was going to shake terribly the earth. And we will see, I think, the calendar rearranged. You know, right now the calendar has 29 and a half days, but in Bible times early, it was 1,260 days in a year and 30 days to a month. 12 is 1,260 for 3 years. It's 360 for 1 year. So it can change the calendar, I think, as it did originally. Around 700 BC, the calendar started changing. And there was an earthquake in Isaiah's time. That was in the context of Isaiah 6th chapter, that he was called to be a prophet. And it was in the 4th verse that you see the proof that the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried. If the posts of the door moved, that was an earthquake. And it was tipped off by the verse right before Isaiah 6 is, I forget the verse, it's maybe 5:30. I'm kind of wanting to believe it's verse 30 of chapter 5. There's the roaring of lions and the roaring of the sea. Well, John in Revelation first chapter heard the roaring of the sea. The voice was as the voice of many waters. Okay, that's the roaring of the sea. And also in verse 11, or verse 10 rather, there's a voice of a great trumpet. Well, if you go to where first use of the word trumpet is Sinai, when the trumpet sounded and the mountain shook, actually. So there was an earthquake with Mount Sinai shaking. All of this to say that these things are going to happen again in the end time when Muslims take the city and the Lord roars. There's going to be an earthquake, and that earthquake will be the knock for the wedding in Luke 12, verse 36. It talks about it mentions the word wedding there in that verse, and it says, "Be ready when I come and knock, that you open immediately." Well, I like the word first use of the word immediately in the King James Bible. It's not even found in the Old Testament, but in the New Testament, it is when Christ called James and John, they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him. So that's similar for us. We need to be ready to immediately, when the knock comes, leave our ship, which is our livelihood. That was how they made their money, fishing, and father, they left him, because sometimes family ties can interfere with what you want to do for God, most of all. So we need to have it in place. There was a time when Christ left home. He was a carpenter in the carpenter shop. Joseph died. I'm sure he was a mainstay holding things together, but there was a time when he said, "I have to go." And he did. And he became anointed by the Holy Spirit. That's what the word Messiah means, is anointed. And it was at the end of 69 weeks, in the middle of the 69th week, he was crucified. But he was anointed 3.5 years earlier, at the beginning of that week. So this is for us, and this end time stuff, because God wants to anoint a group of people in the end time, and we see it. Revelation 11:1 says, "Rise, measure the temple, and they that worship therein." We can be his worshipers. And it says, "I will give power to my two witnesses," and I believe that's Old and New Testament, lived in us, okay? And it says that they will have the power to shut the heavens and turn water to blood. Well, shutting the heavens is what Elijah did, and water to blood is what Moses did. Moses and Elijah power we have for 3.5 years, 1,260 days. If the calendar is changed from 29.5 to 30 days by that earthquake, because the heavens will be shaken as well. So I think we're 9 months away from that. Next spring is when it's going to happen, because in 2 Samuel 11 verse 2, David was on a housetop looking where he shouldn't have been looking at the beginning of the year when kings go forth to battle. Well, he should have been at battle instead of Bathsheba. But it gives you the clue that war comes in the spring, and we did on after Muslims did the thing what they did on 9/11, it was the following spring that we went to war. So if you're looking, you can see how these things hang together pretty well, and I'm believing that we need to see the earthquake as a knock, really, for the wedding. And I'm going to explain in this how we get there to high reward in the wedding parables. It's not, you see, favorite author said every prophecy is an explanation of some other prophecy. So the wedding parables are all about something future. It's prophecy, but they each have a different picture, and we need to synthesize and get it together. And I'm seeing that the Matthew 22 parable of the wedding garment has some interesting information that the remnant, which is the people at the end of time, mistreat the messengers who are inviting to the wedding. And I see the invitation really As you know, every wedding invitation has a date and time. And you need to know that Passover is the time when we should be heads up for the wedding, because Luke's wedding parable has triple Passover imagery. Wow, 3 times. At first we see the imagery of Luke 12:35, have your loins girded. Well, that was Passover imagery in Exodus 12, verse 11, I believe it is, when they were to have their loins girded and their lights burning. Okay, and so Passover time, it says, be ready when I come and knock, that you open immediately. Blessed is that servant whom his Lord finds watching. Well, watching is another clue for Passover. Watching comes from the word Gregorio, and it means be awake. Okay, and we can't be awake every night. That would be a health issue. But once a year at Passover is the only time that it was required, and we should do it. Sadly, the disciples failed Christ. When they came to him, James and John, with their mother, and mother was asking, can my sons be on the left and right in you in the kingdom? Christ looked at them and said, can you drink of the cup that I drink of? They said, yes. Well, the last night he gives it to them. He gives them the cup, and they drank from his cup, but a couple hours later, they couldn't do it. He said to watch and pray with me, but they went to sleep. And he came to them, he said, couldn't you watch 1 hour? Apparently couldn't. Maybe they ate too much, I don't know. But my point is that I'm not much better. I find that on the eve of Passover, I tend to fall asleep too. But I found a way to do it. And it's the way God had the Jews do it. In Exodus 12, verse 10, he said to eat the Passover lamb and leave nothing till morning. They ate all night. Okay, I guess. But the point is that eating is stimulating. When I was in college, the guy who drove the bus for different class outings could drive all the way to Florida from Washington, D.C. by eating 1 peanut at a time. Okay, chew the peanut, eat another one. That'll keep you awake. Well, my point is we eat lamb, but it doesn't have to be literal lamb. I'm talking about spiritual lamb. And so I find that when I read one of the best books ever written on the life of Christ, in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. for many years, it was the book recommended to the average person wanting a good book on the life of Christ. And it was The Desire of Ages. Okay, and I will put the link below to it so that you can access that link. And on Passover times, start with maybe in Remembrance of Me, the Last Supper, okay, and read a chapter and then pray. And let not your heart be troubled. That's another chapter. Also, when Christ was going to pray, and he prayed, he sweat blood for us that night. Okay, we want to be His fully, and by reading the chapter and praying, we appreciate what He did for us, so that when He comes and knocks, we have a right attitude. We're ready to die for Him. If the disciples had done what I'm talking about in praying and staying awake, they could have been strengthened as Christ was strengthened when He sweat blood for them, and for us He sweat blood for. And if they had done that, when the Jews came with the Roman soldiers, they should have said, hey, we're not running, we're going to the trial with you. And when the Jews said, you're going to tear down the temple and build it again in 3 days, they could have said, no, He's talking about His body. Come out Sunday morning, you'll see. If they had said that, there would have been some witnesses, maybe Nicodemus, or he was a believer, etc. And the Jews could not have lied against witnesses who saw Christ being resurrected on Sunday morning. Pentecost could have been the whole nation repenting, turning to God. It would have been so much better if that had happened. Really, the disciples failed Him more than we know. Okay, when they were going up the hill the last time in Acts 1 verse 6, they wanted to know, will you restore the kingdom to Israel at this time? He could have raked them over the coal and said, you guys failed me, but He didn't do that. That wasn't Christ's method. But he said, it is not for you to know the times or seasons, basically. And we tend to think, well, it's not for us to know either. But Paul was putting himself into the end time, when we which are alive and remain will be caught up, in 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 17, 18. But the next verse in 1 Thessalonians 5:1 says, and of the times and seasons you have no need that I write, for you know perfectly. What's the difference? The disciples were not to know times and seasons, and they lived their lives, did the best they could, but weren't to see them. Okay, again, they were not to be on the right and left in the kingdom. They had failed. But we can be there, okay? If we are watching and praying on the eve of Passover, it can be for us, that we can. And in Luke's wedding parable, blessed are those servants whom his Lord finds watching. He will gird himself, make them sit down to eat, and serve them. That's Passover again. That's the Last Supper imagery. And verse 44 says, he will make the servant, so doing, ruler over all that he has. We can be there. We can do that. We can be ruler, okay? And I'm seeing that this is for not just me, because my name is Ruhling, but for 144,000 people who are highly privileged to be ruler over all. How is that possible? Well, in Revelation 14:4, the 144,000 are virgins. And if the Bible explains itself, they have to be the wise virgins that get into the wedding. And the point is that if we open and knock, it's time then for the wedding feast, which is at Passover time a feast of unleavened bread. Okay, 7 days Israelites ate unleavened bread when they left Egypt, and we should be prepared with unleavened bread. But it's not about crackers. When Christ said, beware the leaven of the Pharisees, he was talking about their doctrines. In Matthew 16th chapter, verse 12, it mentions doctrines. Okay, and the following chapter, Christ said, before he comes, Elijah must come first and restore all things. I'm seeing topics that need to be restored, because like Elijah in Malachi 4:4 and 5, remember the law of Moses with statutes and judgments? Behold, I send you Elijah. Well, that emphasis of statutes and judgments is sevenfold in Ezekiel 20, where it's statutes, judgments, Sabbath, statutes, judgments, Sabbath, statutes, judgments, Sabbath. A sevenfold emphasis is a mark of end-time truth, like Revelation is 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 thunders. And so if we can be anointed by God, if we are tuned into this and are ready to offer a covenant to Christ during the week of the wedding. And so that's what it is for us. Go to my website. It's healthhappinessdestiny.com and get the book How It All Ends, and you'll be able to be ready and prepared for what's coming. And tune again next week. We'll have a different emphasis on how we get there. But God bless you. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you again at the top. Bye-bye.